what is this show doing to me? Because I'm starting to think that this might be the best Game of Thrones show we've ever had.
And the no true knight among you!
Welcome back, everyone. We're here to talk about A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, episode 4, titled 7. Not episode 7, episode 4, but it's called 7. This episode is probably my favorite episode that we've gotten, although I think episode 1 was pretty close on its heels for me. That episode really sets the tone for what kind of series this is. But man, whoo, sheesh. We need a hero like Duncan in our time period, to be honest with you. And before we get into this, I want to know what makes this show stand out for you. Let me know down in the comments. In the wake of what happened at the end of the last episode, where Duncan punched Prince Aerion, we are seeing him now have to deal with the fallout of that. And also Egg has to deal with the fallout of that because Egg obviously revealed that he was Prince Aegon, Aerion's younger brother. And Dunk is called in to talk to Baelor. And Baelor basically says because he punched the prince and kicked the prince, that he's in some hot water and could even lose his hand and his foot as a result of this. However, it's not that there is only one way to deal with this scenario that Duncan finds himself in. Sure, they could do a trial, but there are many kinds of trials. And of course, Duncan follows along with what Baelor is saying. And as did I before it was actually said. And I was like, trial by combat, which is what Duncan claims, as is his right as a knight. But Aerion is not feeling trial by combat. He refuses and instead proposes a different kind of trial, and that is a trial by the 7, which basically means that you have 7 men, 6 other people fight with you, and you go up against another group of 7, and as a result of that, whatever side wins, that's like the side that the gods have ordained is correct. Dunk is fighting to say, what I did when I attacked the prince was within my right as a knight because it is my duty to protect the innocent, and I was defending a puppeteer who was innocent. Whereas Aerion's side is that he is claiming because the puppet show showed a dragon being killed, this was an attack on his house, and he was obviously defending the honor of the crown, the honor of the Targaryen house. And so he is claiming that, the fact that he was punched was not right, and is arguing for his side. Now, of course, Duncan only really has Egg at this point in his corner, and now tensions are intense between Egg and Duncan, so he's in a bit of a pickle. But what I really love about Aerion claiming trial by 7, this isn't even a Targaryen thing. This is an old Westerosi thing. The Andals are from way a long time ago, and the Targaryens obviously came into Westeros and took over the 7 kingdoms. And so it's very, very just scummy, I think, of the prince to come in and claim an old custom to defend the honor of a crown, of a house that came in and conquered this place. And yet you're using their old customs? Man. But it also is the perfect counterplay because Aerion clearly doesn't want to fight Dunk alone, and he actually has people that he can call upon as a prince, whereas Dunk is just a hedge knight who's only just starting out on his own, and no one really knows of him, and no one's really particularly interested necessarily in what he has to say. However, the thing that I love about this episode, and the thing that I love about this show, is that because Dunk is such an honorable person, there are a lot of people that want to be in his corner, even when he doesn't believe he can do something, even though he's honestly scared shitless. There are people that just believe in him because he represents something that we are struggling to see in this time period thus far, at least in this show, which is a sense of honor. Seeing a time period where it's really more about what can I get than what can I give to the people. Duncan is quickly becoming a folk hero at this tournament where everyone just hears about what he's doing and kind of wants to rally behind him. Like the gentleman that made his shield for him and basically added a bunch of reinforcements and did it all up really nice when he was getting his shield painted with his new sort of symbol, his sigil for his house, he offers Dunk to just pay him 1 copper for it because he clearly just believes in Dunk. Like, he did a bunch of work on it, but he's just willing to take a pittance because he believes in this man. Now, granted, it is a mark of the times too, when then we get to the time where now this combat is supposed to happen. And of course, Aerion has tons of Targaryens on his side. He's got his brother, Daeron, who has said that he will basically just fall prone in the fight. And I love that Egg and Daeron have this really cute brotherly love between them, where it's clear that Daeron is a drunk, but he isn't spiteful. He isn't necessarily a bad brother. He's just clearly dealing with the fact that he has prophetic dreams, and so probably is driven to drink as a result of that, which we already know in the Targaryen history that there have been kind of these prophets. And this is also a house that we know that is plagued by madness. So Daeron is dealing with his problems in the only way I think that he can. But I do believe that he actually shaved Egg's head because Egg wanted to go and he knew his brother wasn't going to go enlist. And he wanted to be a squire, so his older brother just let him go. And then made up this story after of Duncan taking him away because he didn't want to get in trouble because he was afraid of his dad. But he's not necessarily a bad guy. And he even says to Dunk, just maybe like hit me, not too hard, and I'm just going to fall down. So that's one person that they don't have to worry about. But I can't imagine that this combat is going to be easy because, like I said, Aerion does have the Targaryens, and not all of them are willing to lay prone and play dead. And he has accomplished people on his side who are fighting on behalf of the crown. So it's a pretty powerful claim. However, on Duncan's side, we do have one of my favorite characters in this show, the Laughing Storm. That's right, he's actually getting Lionel Baratheon to fight at his side because Lionel just likes Dunk that much. And he happened to bring a bunch of people to the cause. So because he's with the Baratheon house, he's doing okay. And Stefan Fossaway, who is Raymond's cousin, who pledged himself to Dunk's cause, actually bails last minute just to showcase really what this period is like in terms of honor. And it's crazy because Stefan was the one that was saying, like, we need more people that are like this, that are honorable. And then he himself undermines his own, in theory, beliefs and does so because he was promised a lordship. So once again, it's all really about what can I get and not just about honor for the sake of honor. So going into the next episode, we have quite an interesting lineup with Raymond even joining the cause because now we need more people on Dunk's side because people have defected. And so Raymond is actually knighted by Lionel and is joining the fight. And I'm just amazed that our surprise guest for Dunk's side, of course, is none other than Baelor, who is in line to the throne. He's the next in line. He's the hand of the king. He's a Targaryen, and he's fighting against his own nephew's claim, his own house's claim, really, because he believes that what Duncan did was honorable, and clearly he's in this guy's corner. So when we talk about Sir Duncan the Tall being this legendary figure in Westeros, we are now starting to get that feeling of watching legends happen, of being a part of the mythos of the world. And it is so cool because you can see it from two sides in this show. And that's something that I really love about it. You see it from Dunk's side, where like this is just another day in his life trying to survive and get by and prove himself. And you can also see it from the side of the stories that are going to be told about this moment. And the way that this episode is shot, I think really beautifully encapsulates both of those tones combined together. And they really are fused in a beautiful way where you're seeing it from a more grounded perspective, but we also have these kind of grandiose shots. There's some slow-mo used in this episode. And of course, we have the Game of Thrones theme, which comes in as Baelor arrives, which I loved. This is the first time we've used the theme in this show. And I just feel like they're doing everything so well in terms of telling a great story, not pandering to us as fans, and just honoring the epicness of this tale as it is on its own. So we still get these lovely ties to the world and to the universe, but we don't ever feel like if you like Game of Thrones, you'll like this. This is a show that stands on its own because all of the characters, this is our first time interacting with them anyways, and the characters are who they are in the show. So they're all being established in the show. So there's not much you need to catch up on. You can tell that Arion's not a good guy from the way he behaves. You can tell that Sir Duncan is an honorable man from the way that he behaves. So all of it's there for you, and you can just enjoy it regardless of whether or not you're a Game of Thrones fan. And it's just such a good show. Like, even operating outside of my love of the fantasy genre, it's just good television. So overall, I loved this episode. I thought the way that everything came together was so interesting. Once again, it kept me on my toes. I didn't really know where we were going until we were there. And I think the next episode is going to be even crazier because now we have a bunch of people that have basically pledged their lives to this cause over this fight that honestly is pretty ridiculous when you think about a prince threw a tantrum at a puppet show. That's ultimately what happened. So when you think about that, it feels like both surreal, but also just insane in a very epic way, on a larger scale about what this fight clearly represents. Because it is so much bigger than the incident that we are arguing about. Standing up for honor, even in the face of someone who gets to tell you what honor is, because they're in charge of everything. So this is a huge defining moment for all of the Seven Kingdoms. So I assume that the next episode is going to be mostly this fight, and I cannot wait to see how it shakes out because honestly, not looking up the history, which I do for House of the Dragon, but I'm trying really hard to not look up the histories, even though I know it's all documented. I really have no idea where this is going to go. I know that Sir Duncan is a figure of legend and he goes on beyond this, so he's safe. But what happens to everyone else? What happens to Raymond in this fight, who was only just knighted by the Laughing Storm? We're about to find out. That's all I have for this one. I hope that you enjoyed this episode as much as I did and are enjoying just everything that this show represents in terms of just great storytelling, but also in terms of, I think, these moral dilemmas that can speak to all of us, regardless of what our life is like. That is my favorite thing about really good fantasy, is that fantasy at its core is using a fantastical backdrop so that we can kind of explore these quandaries in a safe environment. And so I think this is a fantasy story for the ages, and I can't wait to see how it shakes out. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching this video, and until next time, friends, as always, stay nerdy. Bye! And if you missed my previous review for A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, you should check this out.